One of the largest crypto exchanges, FTX, collapsed in a matter of a few days. Investors sold off $6 billion worth of FTT in just 3 days. FTX crypto token. The price plummeted from $26 to a little over $1, losing more than 90% of its value. FTX wasn't just another crypto token, it was the third largest crypto exchange. Hundreds of other crypto companies heavily relied on FTX for their survival. BlockFi is also getting ready to file for bankruptcy. By the time this video is out, they might be bankrupt already. In July of just this year, FTX bailed them out with a $400 million credit. So if FTX is going bankrupt, BlockFi is definitely going to follow. BlockFi is one out of hundreds of other companies that have been relying on FTX to make ends meet. There are also 50 other creditors to whom FTX owes over $3.1 billion. To some of them, FTX owes more than $200 million. That's a huge sum of money, and that kind of money could push some company to the brink of bankruptcy. Now, the main question is, what exactly did FTX do wrong to go from $32 billion to zero in less than 3 days? How SBF fooled the world's largest investors? And how deeply will FTX collapse impact the crypto market? We'll answer all of these questions and many more. But before we do that, give this video a thumbs up and let's dive in. Sam Bankman-Fried is a perfect example as being giving an image of a hero that has been trying to save the world, but ended up being the devil who has been exposed. There are a lot of things that could be said about him, but he is not the first who's been trying to justify his actions to achieve his ultimate goal. Despite his $16 billion net worth, he has been driving a Corolla, wearing a t-shirt with shorts, and never cared about the luxuries that your typical billionaire loves, like supercars, expensive yachts, and luxury watches. However, the hero turned out worse than any billionaire you can think of. More than 1 million people have lost their money in the spectacular collapse of the cryptocurrency trading firm. Some had big chunks of their life savings disappear into a black hole. Most of them were the people who lived paycheck to paycheck and saw crypto as their only chance to win the lottery of life and finally join the ranks of the rich people. But the pyramid had collapsed, and all of these people have lost their funds. To understand why FTX has collapsed, we have to understand Alameda's research. Sam Bankman-Fried co-founded Alameda Research, a quantitative cryptocurrency trading firm, in 2017. To raise money for his company, he has started a cryptocurrency exchange where people could buy, sell, and trade derivatives. The exchange was so successful that it became the third largest in the world. But that success came because Alameda Research, Sam's first company, was heavily trading in FTX. It brought enough liquidity to start drawing the attention of average crypto traders. But then in June 2022, Alameda Research started suffering serious losses. But SBF didn't want the company to collapse, so it lent the money that customers deposited in their FTX accounts to Alameda Research to keep trading, which is a direct violation of FTX rules. Both companies are owned by SBF, which is a textbook example of a conflict of interest. You don't simply lend $10 billion to another company without the awareness of the CEO who actually owns the second company. The problem is that if Alameda's Research used that money and made a profit, it wouldn't be a problem, even though it's a direct violation of FTX terms and service. But the opposite has happened. Alameda's Research has lost money again, and that was leaked to Binance. Binance is the largest crypto exchange. It invested in FTX back in 2019 and last year sold its stake back to FTX for $2.1 billion worth of Binance USD and FTT tokens. So no real money was transferred here. FTX gave back to Binance over $1 billion worth of their coins that they have been holding and hundreds of millions of their own coins that they create called FTT. So when it was leaked to Binance that FTX lent more than half of its funds, over $10 billion, to Alameda Research to trade crypto, but in return Alameda Research lost most of their funds, Binance anticipated that FTX is going to go broke pretty soon, so they sold all of their FTT in early November. 23 million FTT tokens worth about $529 million at that time. The tension between the two men, the CEO of Binance and SBF, further pushed the price to plummet. That scared off investors and everyone began withdrawing their money from FTX. Customers withdrew $6 billion, eventually leaving FTX with literally no cash left. At this point, FTX knew that they are heading into bankruptcy, so they began to look for someone to acquire them, and Binance was like, why don't we buy you? Seemed like a great deal. Imagine the number of clients that could have drawn to their platform. But after looking at their financial statements, Binance was like, this is much worse than we have imagined. We're going to stay out of this deal. So the deal did not go through. SBF kept trying to raise money, but it was pointless at this point. Leaked documents showed that the company had less than $1 billion in liquid assets against almost $9 billion in liabilities. The company needed $8 billion to match its liabilities. Who would invest in that company? Just to remind you, SBF moved $10 billion of clients' funds to Alameda Research, the company that 90% of which he owns, to trade crypto. To top it off, on the day when FTX filed for bankruptcy, it came out that around $500 million worth of customers' funds were missing. What's FTX's response to that? Well, they claim that they have been hacked. I mean, come on. Why is it coming out on the day you file for bankruptcy? But it doesn't matter whether it was an inside job or real thieves have stolen the money. Regardless of the situation, clients' money have been lost. The more regulators dug into FTX financial statements, the worse it got. Between $1 to $2 billion of clients' funds were missing. The collapse was so severe that over 100 companies that were affiliated with FTX also filed for bankruptcy, and SBF was replaced by John Ray as the new CEO. John Ray was the guy who oversaw the liquidation of Enron, another corporate failure that was too optimistic about their future profits but ended up as the biggest corporate failure of all time. The aftermath of FTX failure goes much beyond FTX. The crypto market is still trying to stabilize, but when one of the largest exchanges goes bankrupt, that sends a clear message to investors. Crypto is still too risky to invest. Everyone suffered. Cryptos.com's token Kronos lost over $1 billion worth of value. Genesis suspended withdrawals, and Gemini also paused some withdrawals. FTX isn't the first crypto disaster. A few months ago in May, Terra Luna collapsed and lost more than 99% of its value. Dogecoin, that's down more than 70%. The whole purpose of crypto was to decentralize the financial system so that the public would have some control over the supply of money and not just the government. But it turns out that when the control is given to people, they would be as corrupted as the corporate greeders in Wall Street. So regardless of how much we hate the government, there should be some level of regulation for something like this not to happen again. Just look at how much money people have lost. So it doesn't matter how many bots are in the comment section below criticizing me or anyone else who points out at these facts, average people with limited knowledge of crypto and finance shouldn't get into something they do not understand. For God's sake, study the subject, understand how everything works. But even then, be careful when you invest. I don't really follow a random billionaire on Twitter who is investing in a coin that's named after a dog just for fun. He can afford to throw $5 million to waste it on a crypto coin, but you risking your entire life savings? That's different. Even if that billionaire drives a Corolla and behaves as if money doesn't matter to him. It's just funny how everyone praises you while you're succeeding, even if you're doing some shady things, even if you're directly stealing the client's funds. But the moment you get caught, you turn into a villain. Take a look at Elizabeth Holmes. She was looked up to as the next Steve Jobs, but now the judge gave her a 13 years prison sentence. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next one.